Welcome, ranchers, to our Mindfulness with Marcia series on what I call clearing or simplifying, and what many may call, in fact, in the United States, it was this huge resolution, one of the top 5, was decluttering. And I was asked by several of you at the ranch to address this whole decluttering or clearing issue in my Mindfulness with Marcia series. And how that fits into mindful living. What does it actually look like or act out to simplify? And I have to tell you, it's not easy, and it's usually pretty difficult for most of us. I say usually because it will depend on the magnitude of your end goal, your win. If you just want to clear out a couple junk drawers versus your entire house, well, that's a big difference in your scope of your goal. Do you have a lot of emotional and sentimental attachment, like I did, to everything in my home, from my family and friends, as well as all the stuff in my office from students and staff along the way in school? Do you tend to collect things? That would make it more difficult than if you really don't. Or how long have you collected your stuff? 50 plus years like I have, and hadn't really done any decluttering or clearing? Or has it only been like 5 years? We'll visit these areas later, but that really makes a difference in where you start. So we're at that starting line, and I hope that you set your intention, your win, why you want to simplify, when we were together 2 weeks ago. And I was asked again, what was my win exactly? And it was sort of a two-prong kind of thing. Since I had downsized significantly when I moved to Minot, this was a huge issue. I didn't have what I'd always had and never realized how important it was to me to stash stuff, and that's a basement. I mean, whether it was Christmas decorations or clothes that were out of season, or that was where my canning items were, it was in the basement, and I no longer had that. So I had to get rid of some stuff and prioritize what I was going to keep. And the other one was really came out of the mindful living piece, very, very loud and clear. I wanted to simplify. For example, my kitchen is really more of a, well, it's very small. Let's put it that way. You can't sit in it. It's little. And so cabinets, although I was really good at organizing, if I went to get, let's say, the cinnamon to bake some banana bread out of the cabinet in the kitchen, well, it might be here, it might be way in the back, it might be, and it just drove me crazy that I had to take out all of these other spices and things to find the cinnamon. And that was with everything, whether I was looking for an appliance or I was looking for the canned beans, or everything seemed to have to always come out. It was always in the back. And if it was down below, like at the bottom, and I have this one corner cabinet without a Lazy Susan or anything in there, I have no idea why that was designed, because anything back in that corner is like, it takes a major move of all your stuff out while the dogs are getting into it and everything to get back there. And I was just done. Wanted to be able to open up, know where things were, and be able to get it a lot easier without having to remove anything, if at all possible. So you see, setting that goal for me was my win, and hopefully you set your win. And that's really just part one of 2 pieces of the starting line. It's more difficult for me to do part 2 because it was, at least at first, really difficult for me to kind of figure out this timeline, which I'll be sharing with you. But later, it actually became my energy drink, so to speak, to keep me going. Because I truly believe one of the biggest obstacles on this path towards mindful living intentions, or you might call them resolutions, and we're looking at, clearing, is the fear that comes when we think about, the gap between where we are now and where we want to be. Once you set that big win, there's a gap. We're not there right now. And I say it's an obstacle because our relationship to the gap is usually in a way of actually moving towards the gap is what's the obstacle. It's not the gap itself, it's that fear that I think a lot of people have of where I am now versus where I want to be. And well, although it can be a factor for pushing me ahead, for me, I found that it was pushing me further away from my goal rather than motivating me towards the goal. Now, that might not be in your case, but I want to share that because it's sort of an oxymoron, you know. I want to get there, but the fact that I have this gap and I'm not there was kind of making me feel a little like, oh, I don't want to go there. This is too big of a deal. Just take stuff out. What's the big deal? And so for that reason, I think it's critical to prepare part 2 and to adopt as consistently as possible sort of that process-driven state of mind along with your big win or your goal, end goal. Because no matter how much you think your end goal, your big win is going to get you there, you see, unless you take action today in this moment towards that goal, thinking about it, you're never going to get there. And I could give you lots of examples of things I've thought about and probably you've thought about it, never actually got there because I didn't have an action plan. So how do I actually apply this whole idea to the mindful living piece of clearing? You see, change requires daily action. And research kind of plays this out for most of us to be successful at anything. We don't change all at once. You know, we don't wake up and say, I've made the change. We've talked before about how it's habituation, how we have a negative mindset. So therefore that negativity bias, you know, that's why that gap seems so amazingly big and impossible. And remember, here's the big thing. We don't have control over what we are going to be able to do tomorrow. We only have control over this moment and maybe a little bit about planning for the day. Because if you recall in Mindfulness with Marsha, we spent some time focusing on our limited resources when we were trying to figure out how to live a more mindful life with less stress. Our resource of time, there's only 24 hours a day, that's all we're all provided. And our own energy. You know, I spoke about how as I got older, my energy wasn't the same, and I was having a hard time accepting that. That's why I really fell in love with daily intentions, because it's a lot less daunting to try to set, this is what I'm going to do today. And sometimes, to be honest, guys and gals, this is what I'm going to do in the next few minutes. Sometimes it's really that smally focus, because that's small of a focus, because I don't have control over some of those bigger pieces, and sometimes it's only the little bits. So here's some examples of some really, truly daily intentions that I created for my clearing process. One was, an easy one was, tomorrow, while I'm watching 2 of my favorite shows that I had put on my DVR, I'm going to shred the paper that I had gathered during some clearing in the office and was ready to destroy. Okay, I didn't have it all together yet, but what I did have, I knew that while I was sitting down, I could watch my show and enjoy it and still shred that paper. Or, I'll wake up a bit earlier tomorrow because I don't have an early meeting and do one task in my closet. I'm going to clear my scarves. And I really did do this. I mean, I didn't say I'm going to clear, all my tops or all my pants or all my handbags, because I couldn't do that before I went to work. But the scarves, I knew that was something that I could do, and I did it. I also did a lot of this. After I got home and took care of, my dogs and my initial chores that I needed to do, before I made dinner, I'll clean out, and I would say what it was. I'll clean out 4 kitchen drawers, for example. Something I knew, again, was within my resources and within the energy that I knew from my day that I would have to do it. Now, as I got, looking at more resources, for example, more time on a Saturday, hey, I'll spend 2 hours packing up the stuff that I've sorted out and get it ready to take to the thrift store and then take it over there. This weekend, when I did some weekend things, I'll unload the spare room and closet to begin the clearing. And that's a biggie. I'll not do any clearing, again, without actually removing space to put it. And I'll explain that later. But here's one that I used a lot. I mean, remember, it took me 2 years to get where I'm at. I'm not going to do any clearing today. And I'm not going to feel guilty or shameful about it because I don't have the resources. I either don't have the time in my schedule because I'm traveling, or I've got a really busy day and I'm going to come home and I'm going to need to just take care of me and relax. Now, if I had done all the first ones I had mentioned, not that I'm not going to do any, for like a week straight or even 3 to 4 out of 7 days, yeah, I would have gotten a lot closer to my goal a lot quicker. But not only am I closer to where I want to be now, but I now have a little bit more belief in my ability to keep progressing towards things that aren't going to happen overnight. Because, see, I was a type A-er. I set my goal, I wanted to get it done, and so many times I tried to do it overnight. And a lot of times I was successful, and that only fed, my obsession to do it more. However, it did take me longer, and there were many weeks and many months, in fact, when I was thinking about this, that I didn't do any clearing. I didn't have the resources. I recognized it and I went about my business. Now, for some, like me, that might have been a reason to just sort of abandon it. But my win, my little pieces along the way, kept me, as I told you, that energy drink. It was those little intentions that I set. And when I'd get one done, I would celebrate it and feel really good about myself. Because once I got started, things became easier and I sort of instinctively knew how to proceed and progress more quickly. Yeah, like clearing out that closet room the closet and the whole room before I put anything away for keeps. I learned that the hard way. I was kind of trying to put stuff away while that was just a total train wreck for me. So this week, I want you to pause and I would ask you to consider a timeline. Or maybe you actually are wanting to consider some action steps, kind of like the ones I shared. Yeah, it's going to change. Mine did, whether it's the timeline or what you're doing at what time, mine did. I thought I was going to go this room, and it totally changed, and I allowed that to happen. That's part of being mindful. But what I want you to do is realize that it's going to be a process. It's going to take some time, and you've got to make sure you have the resources to set up some daily decisions or intentions to move closer to that big win of wanting to simplify and clear out your life. If you can do this, I truly believe that your simplifying results will speak for themselves and they will start to motivate you as they did for me. Until next week, please be well.